Welcome to the Armenian Studies Program lecture series. Tonight we're having our special guest, Dr. Sona Haroutyunian, who's our Kazan visiting professor. And in a moment we'll introduce her to give the final in her three-part series of lectures on the theme of the Armenian genocide in literature, translation, and cinema. I'm here actually to tell you a little bit about what's coming up in the next week. And if you didn't happen to get one of these yellow flyers, either in the mail or out on the table, we have three very interesting events coming up, one right after the other. On Friday, April the 12th, will be the screening of the film The Son of the Olive Merchant. This is a Fresno premiere, and it's going to be screened in cooperation with Cineculture. Now the time is 5:30 p.m. and the reason for that is because that's when the regular time for that film is. So that is when it's being shown every week in this film series. This is a film about the Armenian genocide, but told through the eyes of a couple who have just gotten married and who are doing their own research on the Armenian genocide. That's going to be not in this auditorium, but in the Leon Peters and Pete Peters Educational Center. That's on the corner of Shaw and Woodrow Avenue. Free parking and also free admission. Then Sunday at 2 o'clock in the same building, in the same auditorium, we're going to have the New York Times best-selling author Chris Bojalian, who will be here to read and discuss his book, The Sandcastle Girls. And really he's here for the paperback version because the hardcover came out a year or so ago. But this will be his first visit to Fresno. And this is co-sponsored by the Armenian National Committee of America, Central California. So please tell your friends about this, and I hope that all of you will be able to come out to join us for this very interesting lecture on April the 14th. And then on April the 16th, which is a Tuesday night, my colleague Dr. Sergio Laporta will be giving his annual Berberian lecture on networks of knowledge, communication, and identity in 12th to 14th century Armenia. And he will present his interpretation of what was happening in terms of cultural identity back in the Middle Ages, specifically regarding the Armenians. That will be in this building on Tuesday, April the 16th at 7:30 p.m. Now that's a lot of events coming up, but the next week after that is the week of commemoration for the Armenian genocide, and there will be a series of events both in the community and on campus to commemorate the 98th anniversary of the Armenian genocide. If you'd like more information, you can go to our website or call us at the Armenian Studies Program. It's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Dr. Laporta, who will introduce our speaker this evening. Dr. Laporta.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. As everybody is aware, this has been an incredibly busy month and a very busy semester, all told. It is my pleasure to introduce this evening someone who no longer, I think, needs any introduction. Our Kazan visiting professor of Armenian Studies, Dr. Sona Haroutyunian from Kafoskari in Venice. I have recently been told, we did the tally, this is her 6th appearance in Fresno, her 6th talk, and she still has 2 more to go. One on Saturday and another one for the linguistics department the following week here. Her final Kazan lecture is part 3 in her series on the Armenian genocide in literature and cinema. And in the past, we have heard Dr. Haroutyunian talk about the translation of the genocide experience first into the memoir, into the written account as memory passes into narrative form, and then also the process of translating a text that has been translated from memory into Italian, and then from Italian into a variety of other languages, and what that has done to spread knowledge about the genocide and some of the complications also involved in doing that. And tonight she's going to focus on a 3rd act of translation, that is, how does one take a book, the written narrative, and turn it into a visual work of art or film. As many of you know, the Taviani brothers, the Italian film directors, the Taviani brothers produced the film Lark Farm in Italian, and it achieved quite a great success as a film, and I actually saw it for the first time while I was in Jerusalem. So it made quite a large impact, not only in Europe, but also elsewhere, and of course anywhere where there was an Armenian diaspora. So, and as much as this was a European production, and that even though the directors were Italian, I think many other nations were involved in the production of the film itself. So this was really a much more than a local effort, but it was a multinational effort in the production of this film on the Armenian genocide. So without any further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Sona Haroutyunian again. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Sergio, for this warm introduction. I'd like also to thank the guests and the students who have come to this lecture. I'm excited to present my third public lecture on the renowned Italian Armenian novelist Antonia Arslan's genocide narrative Skylark Farm. Today I'll briefly sum up my first two lectures and will focus on the theme of Armenian genocide in cinema by discussing the dramatized version of the renowned Italian Armenian novelist Antonia Arslan's genocide narrative, directed by Taviani brothers and co-produced by Italy, Spain, Belgium, France, and the European production Euroimages. And of course, we'll have some episodes from the film. During my first lecture, I talked about the contribution of literature in raising awareness about the Armenian genocide. And what I asked myself was whether literature is the next step coming after the historical event, in our case, after Armenian genocide. And according to me, it is not. So I propose this schema. So first we have the historical event of Armenian genocide. Then, what then follows is the translation of that event in the minds of the survivors. So we have the memory. Then, memory becomes the subject of oral history, making intergenerational transmission possible. Then the oral history comes into the minds of writers of memoir and fiction, and finally, the filmmakers, if such a story makes it to this step, translates the text in order to render the film as she or he has interpreted, or as I call, translated the story. So adaptation, that is film, screenplay adaptation, etc. Hence, we have the historical event, the memory, oral history, memoir or fiction, then translation of the literary genre, and then film adaptation. And I did a research, and according to some documents and some genocide narratives that I compared, the time spent between the first step, after the historical event, and the memoir, so the fourth step, is about 50, 60 years. So the writer needs a certain distance for the intergenerational transmission of the knowledge, because usually the survivors, that is the memory holders, the survivors, they have the psychological blocks. So before the information of the memory turns into oral history, usually 40 or 50 years passed. This was Arslan's case, this was Fethiye Çetin's case, and some other memoir or genocide narrative writer's case. So I discussed second, third, and fourth steps in my first lecture on Armenian genocide in literature, where I analyzed the personal and social function of the genre that the novel Skylark Farm belongs to, being a genre that mixes autobiography and biography, history and fiction, documentary and memory. I focused on the literary genre as an instrument which brings greater attention to the historical phenomena of Armenian genocide. With the projection of some exclusive documents, we had a unique chance to visit backstage of the novel. And I want to thank again my dear friend Antonia Arslan for giving at my disposal family relics, some photographs and some original documents, so I was able to show it during my first lecture. Then I dealt with the translation of genocide narrative during my second lecture, exploring and problematizing the power of translation related to the genocide as an instrument of cultural, historical, and linguistic interaction. For example, why has Arslan's particular book been chosen for translation into 18 languages? What difference, if any, does reading genocide literature in translation make? And finally, in what ways have these translations contributed to the awareness of the genocide in their given countries? Exploring the impact these translations have had in their given countries, we also examine the readers' reactions by presenting exclusive interviews with some of the translators. According to that hierarchy that I have formulated, today we'll speak about film adaptation, so about the last step. Film adaptation, or as I call, film translation of a genocide narrative. Every book has its birth story, every translation has its birth story, and analogously, every film has its birth story. When the Italian famous film directors and screenwriters, the Taviani brothers, suggested Antonia Arslan to dramatize Scarlet Farm, Antonia Arslan had another proposal from Hollywood. But she was aware that in the past, the several attempts to produce a Hollywood film on Armenian genocide were blocked. She knew that prominent directors and actors throughout the decades have attempted to produce the film based on Werfel's novel, but they had no success. Hence, Antonia Arslan confirmed the Taviani brothers' suggestion. The Taviani brothers announced right in the beginning that the film would have been freely inspired from Scarlet Farm. That is, the plot would have been relatively the same, but the directors had the right to change something or make additions, and in fact they editorialized, accessorized the film and inserted fictional stuff in the movie, like love episodes, etc. This is quite normal because even if it originates from a novel, the filmmaker translates to film his perception, translation of the fiction. Naturally, there is always the matter of fidelity of the film to the novel, generally expressed as a function of adequacy and acceptability, whereby the former is more or less what we mean by equivalence, and the latter is more or less what we mean by believability to the audience. For example, usually many readers watch movies based on the books they have read and come out disdain. Why? Because so many parts of the story are cut out. So we as readers search for mistakes and sometimes disregard whether the movie was nicely directed, produced, etc. So I think we should never compare them, but rather consider them separately. Now about the cast. The filmmakers managed to have an excellent cast. And as the Tavianis testified in one of their interviews, the actors were not only involved professionally, but also emotionally. So we have Beirut-born Armenian-Canadian actress and producer Arsine Khanjan, Canadian filmmaker Ato Megoyan's wife. She interprets the role of Armine Avakyan in the film. Then we have Cheki Kario as Aram Avakyan. According to the testimonies of Taviani brothers, after watching the whole film for the first time, this Turkish-born French Jewish actor had burst into tears, and when he got quiet, he said that he had not only watched the tragedy that they have interpreted, but he had also seen his Jewish uncle and grandfather. So in the imagination of the actor Kario, the Armenian genocide and the Jewish Holocaust all of a sudden were crossed. Then we have Paz Vega, the Spanish actress. Since she is very beautiful and well known, the film is a Spanish co-production. She is a central character in the movie. She is not a central character in the book, but in the movie she is a central character. Even the Spanish translation of the movie Scarlet Farm is entitled El Destino de Nunic, as she interprets Nunic's role. So the book, the Spanish edition of the book, is translated as Scarlet Farm in Spanish, but the film, having a Spanish actress in it and being a Spanish co-production, is called El Destino de Nunic. So they have centralized Paz Vega in the film. In fact, when the film had just come out, some Armenians were concerned that the filmmakers had inserted a double love story of Nunik, so the Armenian girl, for two Turkish officers, interpreted by two handsome actors, the Italian Alessandro Preziosi, who, by the way, graduated in law and later became an actor. And the second Turkish officer is the German actor Moritz Bleibtreu. In her novel, Antonia has only one love story. So the Armenians were concerned about why the filmmakers had put a double love story for this Armenian girl for two Turkish officers. So Antonia had only one love story in her book of the Armenian girl. Her name is Azniv, for a Turkish officer. So, but again, the answer is, being a Spanish co-production, the producers wanted to centralize their actress. And here is the first episode.
Rinunciare a convincerti. Sei sicuro di quello che fai? Sicuro. Anzi, lasciami. Augurami piuttosto buona fortuna. Non ne hai bisogno. Non ne hai mai avuto bisogno. Nick. Signorina Nick. So che sono io, Egon. Devo parlarle. La prego, mi faccia entrare. Signorina Nick. Sono io, Egon. So che la prego, mi faccia entrare. Non ho paura. E mi ascolti.
Io non ho paura. Ma lei non doveva venire. Sì, doveva venire, ma non qui.
Parlerò a bassa voce. Ma voglio che lei conosca i miei sentimenti. Ma lei mi conosce e io conosco i suoi. Se questo che le dico mi dispiace, mi perdoni.
Ora sono io a chiederle perdono. Lei sta dicendo le parole che io aspettavo di sentire. E che non dovrei sentire. Non mi parli così.
Ma perché no? Non è colpa mia se quando mi sveglio la mattina penso, la vedrò ancora. Come cammina, come volge la testa. Come mi ha guardato il funerale. E sorrido a me stesso allo specchio. Vieni con me. Non ti sembro pazzo? No, non lo so. Prometto che non ti costringerò mai a convertirti. Andremo insieme in Europa.
In Europa?
Sì.
Non può chiedermi questo. Ci conosciamo così poco. Perché dovrei ascoltarla?
Perché devo salvarti. Io non voglio che tu soffra. Lascio la mia divisa, i miei compagni, ma io devo salvarti.
Salvarmi? Ora mi fai paura. Che cosa mi nascondere?
No, non devi aver paura. Volevo dire che noi due qui non avremo pace. Io sono turco e tu armeno. Bisogna andare via da questa città. Devi decidere. Io e te, Monique, possiamo diventare due esseri più felici o infelici di questo mondo. Se non mi vedi per qualche giorno non pensare male di me e mandare in scambio lo studio di dai. Al mio ritorno decideremo.
Via, via. lui, io non ho fame.
Ma perché?
Perché no? Nick, non ti senti bene? Sì. No. Non sono mai stata così bene come stasera. Che cosa ti succede? A me lo puoi dire?
Okay, so here we witness not only how a handsome Turkish officer, or as I would rather say, how a Turkish officer interpreted by a handsome Italian actor, Prezioso, of course, falls in love with Aram's sister, but also how he makes an aggressive attempt to deliver her from a certain death, even as the circumstances surrounding him attest to the astounding difficulty of doing so. And here is the other episode.
E non sono come i miei compagni. Non alzo le mani sulla donna del campo.
Non alzi le mani su una donna già morta, vuoi dire?
E tu vuoi farmi vergognare? Ora va via. Io mi chiamo Yusuf.
Lo so. Io mi chiamo...
Nick. Lo sai. Aspetta. Voglio solo che tu sappia che io non vorrei stare qui. Mi sono arruolato di mia volontà, ma volevo che mi mandassero al fronte per la nostra Turchia. E invece questo campo E voi? Ma tu hai fame, mangia. Mangia qualcosa. Mangia.
No, no, per bambini.
Nemmeno questo pane mi piace. Non è come quello che si fa a casa mia. Sono cresciuto tra contadini. E quando sono partito, tutti hanno pianto. Ma erano orgogliosi di me e della mia scelta. Spero che non lo sapranno mai. Ma ora rivestiti. Non ti voglio vedere così davanti a me. Aspetta.
Io non ho paura della morte, ma la tortura. Non permetterai che mi torturino, vero? E lo devi promettere.
No, te lo prometto.
Prima che qualcuno di loro mi prenda con la forza, voglio che sia lui.
Okay, so we saw the double love story episodes in the film with the Spanish actress Paz Vega interpreting Nunix's role. Then we have Mohamed Bakri, a famous actor and director of Palestinian descent. He interprets the Turkish beggar Nazim. And then Spanish actress Angela Molina in Ismenes' role. Then we have Mariano Regillo, Italian actor that interprets the role of Asadur, who is Yervant in the book. That is Antonia's grandfather. In the film, we hear the voice of Vartui Karahanyan, and the duduk music is by Georg Dabakyan. Now about the shots. What happens when a film is shot by two directors, and how do they agree instead of quarreling? The episodes are equally divided between them too. When one is shooting, the other is completely out of the scene and do not intervene at all. Everyone is a master and a decision maker, and of course the responsible of one's shot. In that way, they have always worked together for more than 50 years, each directing alternate scenes. When a book becomes a movie, some questions arise. One of the first questions is to ask about the film genre, documentary, drama, historical narrative, etc., that the filmmaker has chosen, since each film genre will create a different kind of viewing experience for audience. The Taviani brothers chose drama. Next question that arises is about the audience for which the film is intended, namely the audience's demographics and psychographics, that is age, social location, cultural encyclopedias, prior knowledge of topic. According to me, the film contributes especially to the audience with little or no knowledge about the Armenian genocide, because while we Armenians can have a mixed sensation of gratitude towards filmmakers or anger, or judge the accuracy of this or that event, or being aware of the genocide, go through minor episodes, preoccupying ourselves with factual matters, like, was it really 50 days that Bartoli walked through the desert, or 30? As in the film, the reality meets the fantasy. A completely unaware person finds out the historical phenomena of the Armenian genocide. So first, through the pen of the writer Antonia Arslan, and then through its various translations, and finally the film adaptation, the genocide is carried beyond its historical limits, slipping from the desks of historians and entering the minds and imaginations of ordinary people. Of course, when a historical event becomes fiction or movie, it is enriched with new shades, colors, new heroes are born, which are given names, are assigned identities. Families are born belonging to one nationality or to the other that are placed in this or that social class. Through a love story, a common conversation in the home or between neighbors, and through a description of a relationship between two individuals of two different nationalities, such as the Armenian and Turkish, or minorities, Armenians and Greeks, both the writer Antonia Arslan and the filmmakers, the Taviani brothers, introduced the historical dimension to the story. There is an episode in the film that explicitly speaks about the difference of Turks and Armenians, especially for a foreign audience. This is very useful. I'll try to show that this also.
Nick, che c'è? Devo lavare il corpo di tuo padre. Lo dobbiamo vestire. Tu sai dove sono le vesti. Perdonami, tu stai pregando, io vengo a chiederti. Tu sei la più buona. Tuo padre ha amato te più di ogni altro, ma non l'hai creduto. Lui sente le tue preghiere. Ma io non sto pregando per lui. Io gli sto chiedendo perdono.
Perdono di cosa?
Se lui mi sta vedendo, non è contento di me.
Nick, sei solo smarrita.
No, ma te lo devo dire. Non riesco a non pensare che domani, quando la nostra casa si aprirà per il funerale,
tutti saranno accorti qui. Ho saputo della decisione di tuo fratello.
Lui potrà entrare. Sarà qui vicino a me. Ci siamo visti sempre da lontano. E io Ismaele, aspetta domani solo per rivederlo. Vedi, non sono così buona.
Dimenticalo, Nick. Lui è un turco. Tu sei armena.
So she said, you are an Armenian and he is a Turk. So when a non-Armenian completely ignorant of not only the essence but also of the existence of the Armenian genocide, watches the film, while hearing the sentence, "You are an Armenian and he is a Turk," ask themselves, why can't a Turkish marry an Armenian? So then the answer we'll find out later. The directors have declared all the times that their intention was raising awareness about the Armenian genocide and bring it as an example to the world to cease with the continuation of such crimes against humanity. The directors don't take a position with regard to the topic. They rather try to bring a sort of equilibrium in the film by evidencing the existence of good Turks who try to help the Armenians, as we see in the following episodes.
Devo salvare ciò che resta della famiglia che ha voluto accogliermi e amarmi. È una famiglia armena e noi siamo turchi, ma stanno andando alla morte. E la loro fine sarà un male anche per noi. Perché gli armeni hanno il culto della carità e noi viviamo con orgoglio di carità. Lo so che nessun mendicante si può permettere il lusso di regalare.
Per queste due miserie, un turco di sangue puro come me dovrebbe rischiare la vita per un gruppo di infedeli.
Aiutami, fratello. Sputami pure in faccia. Ma aiutami. Le mie benefattrici. Io le ho tradite. Perché non vuoi aiutarmi?
Perché tu sei un infame.
No! Questa non è la volontà del profeta. Dai cieli grida contro di noi. Se non daremo il nostro aiuto a chi ci ha accolto e nutrito. Dove le stanno portando?
Voi lo sapete?
Lo sappiamo. Noi due le vogliamo seguire. Vanno ad Aleppo. Che cosa può fare la confraternita?
Avvertiremo la confraternita di Aleppo.
Sono arabi, ma ci daranno aiuto, come noi lo abbiamo dato a loro. Sono organizzati molto più di noi. Sono potenti.
Preparate molto denaro.
Molto denaro.
Dove vai? Aspetta! Sto mai sentito, adesso non ti puoi fermare. Oh, ma...
Un bravo falegname con i suoi figli allestirà un carro di fieno, con un doppio fondo, e lo porterà in prossimità del campo.
200 sterline.
Altri di noi si incaricheranno di passare il denaro almeno a 4 sorveglianti.
400 sterline.
Il mio uomo presso il Pascià ci avvertirà se succede qualcosa prima che gli armeni vengano avviati a dei resort. Da dove... Voi lo sapete, vero? Nessuno tornerà indietro.
500 sterline.
Resta quello che dovete alla confraternita.
Totale 1400 sterline.
Oh!
I gioielli sono di valore, ma non bastano. La somma che ci occorre è almeno il doppio. Ma sì, io ti rispetto. E gli armeni non mi interessano, anche se penso che la pecora si tosa e non si ammazza. Ma la confraternita è la confraternita. Conosci i suoi leggi?
The film's genre is historical narrative based on a historical novel, so the goal is to awaken curiosity, interest, even engagement in a historical event. The limitations and strength of a film translation are evident in the selection of passages from the novel, the filmic treatment of those passages, the omission of passages, etc. This reflection leads into the relationship of the source novel and the target film and opens up such questions as what other sources modeling material is evident in the film. In fact, the Tavianis have not only cut episodes from the novel, but they also added some in. There is an episode in the film which recalls a passage from another genocide narrative by Alice Daschan, Stones on the Heart, published in Italy, about which I spoke last time in my lecture, that my students and I are translating a passage from it, and you'll have a chance to read it soon. In the book, there is a scene of two women forced to dispose of the child by suffocating back to back. And I'll read the episode from the book. So Taviani brothers had read other material on genocide, and they have inserted this material in their film Scarlet Farm. And this is the episode from the book. We were terrorized by the Turks' cruelty. We understood that they were trying to annihilate us all, but before they were enjoying killing the children in front of their mothers, who were going mad, throwing themselves from the cliffs. The Turks were opening the wombs of pregnant women with yatagan. They were stabbing children and then drowning in the rivers. They even took off clothes from the dead to resell them afterwards. Our 2-month-old baby was crying because he was hungry. There was no milk in Hripsime's breasts. The grass that she ate on the streets caused terrible stomachache for the child. However, the poor creature destined to die of hunger, diarrhea, or by the sword, to avoid being discovered by his cries, our mother and sister suffocated the baby in the middle of their backs, one against the other, without looking at him. He extinguished like a candle. And this is the episode from the film.
Ti nascondiamo nel carro. Vieni, vieni.
No. Se fanno un'ispezione a Dio, alla fine. Loro avevano provato a fuggire. Erano presi. Vieni.
Armine, non dica.
Le bambine che avete visto, zia Smig, parla con noi. La zia Smig
Andiamo! Andiamo!
Aveva indosso il vestito che tutte noi cucimmo, ti ricordi, Snene, per la festa dei suoi 80 anni?
E le altre, Armine?
La mia padrona non la riconosceresti più da quando Isabella ha partorito. Una femmina. Un maschio.
Perché mi fai questo, Swan? Vuoi uccidere mio figlio? Guardalo!
Isabella!
Come fai per paura più? Noi ci conosciamo. Le nostre famiglie erano amiche. Io ho preso in te a casa tua. Ricordi?
Devi ardere solo di te.
Aspetta.
Ucciso.
Come faccio? Come faccio, Luna? Aiutami. Sì. Il piccolo Ametis.
Ametis è sempre in cerca di qualcosa da mangiare, ma non trova mai niente.
Turks first tried to block the Taviani brothers from shooting the film. Then, when they failed, they tried to block the circulation of it. In the majority of cases, they didn't manage, but they did manage in one of the most important countries in Europe that I cannot tell in public. When the assistant of the Culture and Tourism Minister of Turkey was asked by a group of Armenian reporters, how could Turkey speak about cultural dialogue between Turkey and Armenia when Skylark Farm by Taviani brothers is banned in Turkey and Egoyan told Ararat was performed after some deep movements? The Turkish official answered that he had never watched that film, but he could imagine its concept. It's about Armenians' exile in 1915. The Turkish official said, similar films may never do any good to the improvement of the bilateral ties. When I hear history of Armenian people, I think of that very period. I would never protest its demonstration, and some different films demonstrating the exaggeration of those would be welcomed as well. So he's using the term exile of Armenians, those exaggerations, said the Turkish official. The film has two major advantages. It stimulates reflection, it had also stimulated a debate on a story known by few, and a few have brought on the screens before. And secondly, manages to put a new light on the fact that the evil and good are not all on one side. When we asked about the effect of a film, we are dealing with the rhetorical and artistic purposes of the film. That is to say, we are probing into the film's scopus, or purpose, with regard to audience, entertainment, information, historical reconstruction, call to action. With regard to the film's artistry, we are asking questions about the craft of the film and whether or not its characters, language, and structure have artistic merit. A novel would have similar artistic and rhetorical purposes, but executed along different lines, since the experience of reading a novel is stretched out over several hours, if not days, while the experience of viewing a film is contained in under 2 hours. And this is a very important point. Film reveals to be an excellent tool to raise awareness about the Armenian genocide in less than 2 hours among hundreds of thousands audience. When in 2006 the Taviani brothers were shooting the film, their desire was to see their movie circulating in the schools. Today, I am happy to assure you that the film is shown in the Italian schools among the students of the 8th grade year when they learn about the World War I. With this lecture, I complete my series of lectures on Skylark Farm. The aim of my 3 public lectures was to analyze the different effects that each medium, literature, translation, cinema, might have on the experience of its readers and audience, what that medium is trying to cultivate, the limitations of each, and as we witnessed how all of them in different ways bring greater attention to the historical phenomena of the Armenian genocide. And I'd like to finish with a reflection, and then I'll show the final episode from the film. My reflection is that with the memory, what is past returns to be actual. The memory is not only an act of remembering, but it can become a living material, can become an emotion. And I'd like to finish my lecture with a final episode from the film.
I miei superiori mi hanno diffidato a parlare. Negano la verità. Ma io ho visto. Con I miei occhi il mio cielo. Dopo la sosta ad Aleppo, costringevo i deportati a riprendere la marcia forzata fino a dei resort. Là, i sopravvissuti alla fame, alla sete e alla fatica. Furono massacrati tutti.
Abbiamo fatto solo il nostro dovere, abbiamo solo fatto il Basta così! Ti ordino di fare silenzio!
Lei intende denunciare qualcuno in particolare? Le ho fatto una domanda. Intende denunciare qualcuno in particolare?
Me per primo. Io ho ucciso una ragazza armena. si chiamava Nulik Avakian. Era una donna che amavo.
Okay, thank you.